As of this week, the emperor penguin unfortunately is officially declared as endangered, following another mass drowning of penguin babies and juveniles due to the heavy increase in sea levels and also melting ice due to the climate change. The IUCN has put the emperor penguin on the red list, meaning it is now officially declared as endangered. The population of penguins has been decreasing for a lot of years now, and we are here now at a point, a very decisive point, where the climate change is going so fast, especially in these regions where penguins live, that we are having to face a potential extinction of this species. So this is why we are building a natural habitat in the real world for the emperor penguin today. And obviously we don't have the emperor penguin as a base game animal, neither have we a DLC for that. So obviously I'm using a mod I have downloaded from Nexus Mods. So with that out of the way, let's get into the speed build, which is going to be a bit of a shorter one today because honestly it's getting a little tedious to watch this. I have built a little bit on the larger scale at the beginning. You can see I'm carving out half of the map to get the water in. I was relatively happy with the looks of it, but to be honest, the game is just instantly down to 15 FPS if I keep that huge bottom of water. I was testing a couple of things, but as soon as I was trying to bring in more things, it just turned out to be a disaster class of what is possible and whatnot. I still, kept doing a little bit, but you can see this is already where I started to slow things down and put a couple of more hills in. I wanted to make it look as realistic as possible, to have a bit of a backdrop, I also wanted to carve out a couple of things so that we break with the constant huge white surface. On this map there is obviously the problem that the permanent snow is not going away, which is the tundra map, the Arctic map, which should be the Antarctic map, but it doesn't really that much. So I use this tool over here that creates this kind of shallow pool effect that years ago has been patched into the game. I still like this little effect to have that ever so shallow pool where animals can wade through, or even like some animals do bath in there, which the emperor penguin doesn't, but it's just like kind of cool to have that. And then I started to throw in a lot of heaters. This is where my first big mistake happened. I forgot to put down a heater and put it down to 15 degrees first, because per default the heaters are set to 30 degrees, which I'm not sure why that is. It's energy efficient wise, this is not the best idea ever, but yeah, I forgot to do this, and this turned out to be a mega problem because later on the penguin obviously can only go to 17 degrees max, so they're constantly having an issue when they go into the 30-degree area. So what I did, I manually went back in, clicked on every single heater and reduced the temperature quite a bit later on. So if you plan to do something like that, don't be as stupid as me, and make sure to set the temperature before, or at least create a group out of all your different heaters to at least be more efficient on clicking on them. But to be honest, as you can only set the temperature per individual heater, that doesn't even change that much anyways. But yeah, I'm also building like a little bit of a glacier over here. As glaciers all across the world are melting anyways, this is no exclusion, and this is also, just a lot of ice over here that just make for a bit more of an interesting backdrop. It's not meant to be super perfect or mega detailed. I just want to have like a bit of a backdrop that makes this whole area somewhat more believable, and the full point was I downloaded about like 10 images as like an inspiration, and I tried to, like, I'm almost like working like a bit of a collage maker, if that makes sense. Like, I'm looking at all these images, and in my head there is a fictive world forming that technically could represent all of these photos, but then again from different angles and different positions. So what I like to really do with inspiration is, if I have a certain amount of especially nature, with buildings I don't have it that much, but with nature I like to look at these things and I like to imagine, okay, what would be to the right, what would be to the left, what would be the land like we are looking from, like opposed to the point of view, and what is in my imagination in that area around. So yeah, obviously I make use of some of the mods I have downloaded lately as well, with the cobble especially over here. Imagine me doing this with the in-game X. That would be I mean, in terms of performance, I could absolutely sell my heating system, my radiators then at home, and just use my computer for heating in the next winter season, because that would have melted everything. So I'm very glad the mod comes with these kind of cool rocks and cobbles and pebbles. They look fantastic, and I'm using again that good old technique of creating a group, spamming the things with align to surface, and then when I'm done, I'm sinking the whole thing ever so slightly down to get rid of some of the overlaps, and the ones that still do overlap a little, I can kind of create it manually, or I just started to cover up with other items. So the pictures I looked into, some of which are very recent, you can obviously tell not only the ice is melting, but it's also due to more constant above zero temperatures, which in the past hasn't been the thing. Some foliage things and some greens and stuff like that start to grow again, and some grasses, like very bare stuff, like nothing yet, like no trees or whatever. But there's a constant growth of like permanent areas that are not covered in snow and ice anymore, which took a while, but now nature is claiming these parts again with putting some plants on it and weeds and stuff like that. So that is happening, and I try to kind of cover this idea by having that huge corridor here on my map, which is the corridor I made with the heaters, which is exactly that idea. So this is where in the past ice would have been, or actually even more so, the glacier that you see, or that we've created in the back, is basically the glacier that used to be going up until this point. But over the last decades, and due to climate change, this turned obviously into a land now, and below that glacier you had like this kind of fertile ground where things could grow. These things have been covered below ice and have been basically permafrosted for centuries, almost like not even centuries, like millions of years, and then eventually they see the light of day now, and they are possible to grow stuff because it has been in the ground maybe already. So that was kind of the idea I was following over here. And then I wanted to make like a little transition area that you can also see more often than not now, where you have like the still snow, but it slowly transitions over in the non-snow areas. And then in between you have got that green kind of grass and like almost like dried out grass. But the thing is, this is where constantly you still have that area between snow and no snow. It's kind of similar to where the desert is going. When the desert is moving forward, you always have that transitional area between where you still have plants, and the plants are actually helping to stop the desert from moving on. And that's basically the same thing over here happening in a bit of a different way. The plants growing over there obviously are stopping the snow from creating another permanent layer of snow, because on these kind of leaves and stuff, it's harder for the snow to maintain, because due to all these kind of movements and stuff, it's much more easier or relevant that the snow is going to vanish at some point before it can create another constant layer of ice and snow and stuff like that. So yeah, by the growth of nature, there's also a second effect to that. Not only that it is already problematic due to the environmental impact on the animal and wildlife, because as you've maybe seen in that snapshot, it's not only about the emperor penguin, but also the Antarctic fur seal is endangered too, and as I will be talking in the real-time part about as well, the leopard seal as well, which makes sense because it's all one ecosystem and they depend on each other. And when the emperor penguin population is shrinking that dramatically, obviously a potential source of food and nutrition for seals, and especially the leopard seal, is vanishing, which then also threatens their population, as they obviously depend on this to happen. It's like one very sensitive ecosystem in the first place, and so that makes sense. Well, speaking of, I also put a couple of logs and bark pieces and stuff like that down, which I honestly don't really know where that would come from, but on these pictures I've seen a couple of those things, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for that. I'm not sure, like there are no trees or anything, but maybe these are like leftovers from bigger bushes and stuff, I could imagine, or stuff that has been brought there with the sea, with the water, and then when areas have been flooded, or I don't know how that would work, that this would have created kind of this effect, I don't know. By the way, you can see me now building a wall that I decided to get rid of, and this is a moment where I need to talk about one of the biggest issues of Planet Zoo, which becomes obvious, especially in these type of builds. as much as I love the game close up and up close, I should say, and the detail work you can do, where the game really isn't shining is on large spaces. Like the grand scheme of things, if you zoom out, it looks okay, definitely not bad, but it doesn't look great at all. Like the background is sometimes, like the textures are so repetitive and so dull that it just really required me to build some rocks manually. But the rocks itself, they are too small to work properly. A game that fixed that issue is definitely Jurassic World Evolution, due to A, the scaling obviously of rocks, but also B, the fact that they have humongous rocks in the game that are already without scaling. They are insanely big and they have a very nice high detail, high resolution texture that helps obviously to create a large kind of fronts of, you know, mountains and rock work and whatnot. That really helps. So at some point I decided to get rid of it again and just go for the natural in-game texture, because as much as it is even less kind of detailed than the stones, it's at least a bit more coherent and clean. So I decided to go with cleanliness over the texture in this specific case, because of the texture of the stones also becoming mega repetitive, apparently, because that is obviously a way smaller piece, you know, and in that piece alone you have that repetitiveness, even though I have rotated that constantly. You get the point. But yeah, I really went on then to put a couple of things in, and also I did a lot after stopping the recording, which is already in a couple of seconds. I have done a couple of things before we go over to the real-time part, because I figured that is a good idea. But you'll see now, I'm gonna hand you over to the capable hooves of Mr. Rudy in real-time mode. I'm gonna show you how that is looking. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, obviously this is already in the workshop, so you can go into the Steam workshop, download this for yourself, but make sure to have the mod Emperor Penguin installed, because otherwise you will not be seeing any animal. Have I said that I needed to leave the game running for about like 4 hours to get enough animals in to make it look at least somewhat nice? I may actually test how far this could go. Anyways, let's go over to Mr. Rudy, Real-Time Rudy, the RRR, the Real-Time Rudy. Have fun! So here we are in the real-time part, and this is our finished sanctuary. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with how that turned out. I just wanted to, you know, build this quickly. I mean, as quickly as possible, you know, regarding my my kind of building style and so on. But yeah, so this is what we've got at hand. I had to change a couple of things. So you can see the sea is not as big as it should have been at the beginning, but the game struggles with these large bottom of waters. So I decided to make kind of a fake little area over here. I wanted to have like a full thing, so I thought about doing this in a kind of diorama first, but I ended up not doing it in diorama because the thing is, it just still got me into some issues. So I ended up doing it this way, and technically it just kind of does the same as well. But yeah, the traversable area for the animals is a pretty damn big problem at the point, because as soon as I change something, like I just need to touch a stone, it's gonna be horrible in terms of FPS. It's already down to like 30-ish FPS right now, with I think 250 animals. Let's have a little look. How many we have? Oh, 330 now. Okay, it's going a bit quicker now, so it's a bit more animals then. But yeah, you can tell this is how it all turned out, and this is our little colony over here. As I've talked you guys through in the time lapse, this is meant to be a little bit of a dedication for them. Oh my god, look at the group over here. Oh, that is so cute. What are they doing? What are they doing? Look at them. They're like all together now. Together now. I'm just gonna still looking for these things. It's kind of fun, to be honest, to look for these kind of wonderful little areas here where animals have certain behaviors with each other. It's partially looking really damn good. What's going on with the camera? Well, hold on. There you go. And just gonna change a couple of things over here. So yeah, the main thing why sometimes I build these kind of things is like I like to just kind of try to depict nature as best as possible, and we should change the lighting here a little bit, but it's looking kind of good though. I also try to go for the optimum lighting. There are a couple of nice lighting situations just throughout the day. I quite like the one when the light comes in here from the back of the glacier kind of thing I did over there. But yeah, so again, the main idea is to to just have that colony live in here. And yeah, climate change has already changed this area to what it looks like right now. And the inspiration photos I was browsing, unfortunately, I was finding a lot of these images where, you know, the Antarctic, for once, has been not fully covered in ice and snow. And, you know, as we all know, it progresses more and more with climate change. So due to kind of raising sea levels, but also areas being warmer than they usually were before, they have this huge issue, as talked about, with all the babies drowning, basically, which, funnily enough, also puts the sea leopard in danger, because the sea leopard, or the leopard seal, it basically is. The leopard seal, basically, sea leopard is just like a German word, and leopard seal is the English word. There you go. They do have problems, obviously, finding food over the last couple of years. So they are also going to be threatened more and more by, you know, the emperor penguin being threatened. So it's all like the ecosystem again, which shouldn't be too surprising. But yeah, oh god, I'm just like really in awe with how that turned out. There are a couple of things I wish would have turned out better. Some of the transition areas I'm not fully happy with, but I tried my best with also changing the temperature values in the heaters to adjust and make sure that you have like this kind of low little transition into the area. But yeah, then I wanted to focus for underground and underwater, but honestly, they're not really that much in the water anyway. So I was like, you know, let's focus on that scene out here, which, yeah, as I said, I think it's working. It's working better than I thought it was. Like, look at this frame over here, for example. Isn't that beautiful? I'm just like really, really damn happy with how that all turned out. It's looking absolutely exactly how I hoped it was, and it looks really cool. I really like the idea of how the whole system. Also, I can make that a little bit different here. I like the idea how the whole system really seems like the real world kind of depiction of how the Antarctic in the area for the emperor penguins looks. And yeah, just in general, I'm a big fan of these more natural habitats, but I'm also not a big fan of the fact that Frontier seems to have not really implemented a nice way of handling these huge habitats. You can clearly tell that the game is not designed for having that many animals in a huge area. It's a bit of a shame because it turned out to be really fun to build, but it also turned out to be really a pain as soon as all the problems with the performance kicked in, and like touching a stone making things so bad. Also, I put some poop on here in the middle, fake poop though, so to say, like a decal over here. Nothing really surprising we haven't seen before. It definitely is something we've seen before, but yeah, this is really, really damn cool. I'm just like really enjoying how that turned out, and hopefully you guys did too. All right, so this has been it for today's episode of a very quick build. Actually, I wanted to do something different, but then I switched over midweek to making this build, and I thought that was just like a good idea to do it for today. In case you guys want to support me to make all these kind of things possible, you see lately the channel hasn't been in its best condition ever, but if you want to help me keeping doing what I do, please consider going to Instant Gaming, buy a game if you need any, or get some pre-orders or whatnot. That helps me directly to keep that sponsorship alive somehow. But also, if you will, you can also become a member of the channel, or whatever you can to just support the channel the way it is. You can see with all the views and stuff lately, the advertising income is not really a good argument anymore to continue what I'm doing right now, especially doing bigger projects. Not like that one is okay, but like the coaster I did recently, and I'm doing something not similar, but also something big in the background for Planet Zoo. So there's a lot of stuff I'm doing, but honestly, there has to be a certain value in between, you know. Got a family, got a wife, a wonderful wife that I want to spend time with, and every single minute I spend doing YouTube has to be somehow reasonable in a way. And sometimes it was the income that would buy us time eventually for other things, but if that doesn't work, I have to step back from doing this, which I actually don't want to, but it would be a reasonable decision to do that. So if you can, or if we can bring this all back together en route, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I'm just loving the habitat. I could have smoothed out some of the edges a bit more though, but yeah, just overall I am pretty satisfied with the result, pretty satisfied with the idea, and I do hope that these animals can be saved from getting extinct, because these are like really cool animals. Anyways, cool also in terms of, well, where they're living. Anyhows, that's been it. I hope you guys have a good weekend ahead. Talk to you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.